Have you ever wondered what it would be like to witness the end of the world? Not in some distant future, but right now. Watching as the sky turns black, the oceans boil, and everything you've ever known simply disappears? Well, our planet has lived through this nightmare not once, but 5 times. And what's truly terrifying is that we might be causing the 6th extinction right now. If you're curious about the forces that nearly erased life from Earth entirely, and what that means for us today, then stick around, hit that like button, and subscribe, because this journey through Earth's darkest chapters will change how you see our world forever. Picture this: a thriving world suddenly plunged into chaos. Within the geological blink of an eye, 3/4 of all living things simply cease to exist. This isn't science fiction. This is the story written in stone beneath our feet. These apocalyptic events are called mass extinctions, and they represent the closest Earth has ever come to becoming a lifeless rock floating in space. What exactly is a mass extinction? Before we dive into the bloodbath of Earth's history, let's understand what we're dealing with. A mass extinction isn't just a bad day for wildlife, it's a planetary catastrophe where at least 75% of all species vanish within a few million years. Now I know what you're thinking. A few million years? That doesn't sound very fast. But here's the mind-bending part. Imagine compressing Earth's entire 4.5 billion year existence into a single 24-hour day. Life wouldn't show up until around 5 a.m. Dinosaurs wouldn't arrive until 11 p.m. And humans, we'd appear in literally the last second before midnight. Within that incredibly compressed timeline, life has been almost completely wiped out 5 separate times. These weren't just setbacks. They were cosmic reset buttons that obliterated ecosystems and forced evolution to start over from scratch. But here's the paradox that should give us hope. After each apocalypse, life didn't just survive. It came back stronger, stranger, and more diverse than before. The first apocalypse. When ice conquered the seas. Let's rewind 4 million years to a world you wouldn't recognize. Earth was a water world. Forget land animals, they didn't exist yet. The continents were barren rock sprinkled with primitive mosses and lichens clinging desperately to any surface they could find. All the action was happening underwater. The oceans teemed with alien-looking creatures. Ancient coral reefs stretched for miles, creating underwater cities of life. Brachiopods, bizarre 2-shelled creatures that looked like clams but were actually completely different organisms, carpeted the seafloor. Trilobites, those iconic fossils that look like armored pill bugs, scuttled across every ocean habitat imaginable. From the shallows to the deep, life had conquered the seas with spectacular diversity. Then came the ice. As continents slowly drifted across the globe, a supercontinent called Gondwana positioned itself directly over the South Pole. This geographical bad luck triggered something catastrophic: a runaway ice age. Massive glaciers began growing, swallowing coastlines and locking away enormous amounts of water as ice. Sea levels plummeted hundreds of feet, and the warm, shallow seas where most life thrived simply disappeared. Imagine living in a bustling coastal city, and then someone literally drains the ocean away. That's what happened to 85% of marine species. But the falling sea levels were just the beginning of their nightmare. As temperatures crashed, the ocean's chemistry went haywire. Oxygen levels dropped dramatically, creating vast dead zones where nothing could breathe. The creatures that had dominated Earth's oceans for millions of years suffocated in water that could no longer support them. The casualties were staggering. trilobites lost most of their diversity and never fully recovered. Coral reefs collapsed so completely that it took over 100 million years before they could rebuild. Entire branches of the tree of life were pruned away, leaving only a handful of survivors to inherit an emptied world. But here's where the story gets interesting. Those survivors had the entire planet to themselves. With competition eliminated and ecological niches left vacant, the Ordovician extinction set the stage for an explosion of evolutionary innovation in the period that followed. The slow death, when plants became killers. Fast forward to 375 million years ago. This was the Devonian period, the age of fishes. The oceans were ruled by placoderms, massive armored fish with jaws powerful enough to crush bone. Early sharks prowled the deep. And on land, something revolutionary was happening. Plants had discovered how to grow tall. The first forests emerged, with primitive trees reaching toward the sky and fundamentally altering the planet's atmosphere. As they photosynthesized, they sucked carbon dioxide from the air and pumped out oxygen. The atmosphere became breathable for animals, and life took its first tentative steps onto land. Amphibians hauled themselves from the water, and insects buzzed through the prehistoric forests. It should have been a golden age. Instead, it became a drawn-out nightmare lasting 20 million years. Here's the cruel irony. Those beautiful forests that made land habitable became underwater death traps. As trees died and fell, organic matter washed into rivers and streams, flowing inevitably into the sea. When this material decomposed, it consumed oxygen, massive amounts of it. For the first time in Earth's history, plants, the very symbol of life, accidentally created oceanic dead zones that suffocated marine creatures by the millions. But wait, there's more. Massive volcanic eruptions began pumping carbon dioxide and toxic heavy metals into the environment. The climate swung wildly between extreme heat and bitter cold. Ocean acidification made it nearly impossible for shell-building organisms to survive. And some evidence suggests asteroid impacts added fuel to this multi-million-year disaster. The Devonian extinction didn't strike like lightning. It was more like a slow-motion train wreck. Coral reefs that had flourished for hundreds of millions of years collapsed entirely and wouldn't recover for another 100 million years, and even then with completely different types of corals. The giant placoderms vanished forever, along with countless primitive fish, mollusks, and plankton species. Life on land fared better, but the constant environmental stress pushed evolution in a crucial direction, toward animals that could survive entirely on dry land. This pressure would ultimately lead to the rise of reptiles and eventually dinosaurs. The Great Dying, Earth's closest brush with total death. Now we arrive at the main event, the extinction so devastating that scientists gave it the most metal name possible, the Great Dying. 252 million years ago, during the Permian period, Earth was a spectacular place. All the continents had merged into one massive supercontinent called Pangaea, surrounded by a single vast ocean. Life was everywhere and incredibly diverse. Primitive reptiles roamed the land alongside therapsids, strange creatures that were the distant ancestors of all mammals, including us. The oceans supported thriving coral reefs, diverse fish populations, and yes, those persistent trilobites were still around, though their glory days were behind them. Then the planet tried to kill everything. In Siberia, an area covering nearly 800,000 square miles began vomiting lava. Not for days or months. This volcanic apocalypse continued for potentially 1 million years. The sheer scale is difficult to comprehend. Basalt layers hundreds of feet thick still exist today as evidence of this geological nightmare. The consequences were beyond catastrophic. Trillions of tons of carbon dioxide and methane flooded the atmosphere, creating a runaway greenhouse effect. Global temperatures soared. The oceans absorbed the carbon dioxide, turning them acidic and dissolving the calcium shells of corals and mollusks. As the planet heated, ocean currents that had circulated oxygen-rich water shut down, creating dead zones that covered vast swaths of the seafloor. But it gets worse. Sulfur gases from the eruptions and methane leaking from the seafloor filled the atmosphere with toxic compounds. Some research suggests these gases damaged the ozone layer, allowing deadly ultraviolet radiation to bombard the surface. Earth became a pressure cooker of death. Scorching temperatures, suffocating air, and poisoned oceans all at once. The result? 96% of marine species went extinct. 70% of land animals perished. Even insects, survivors of previous apocalypses, lost numerous lineages. The trilobites, those ancient success stories that had weathered every previous crisis, finally met their end. For millions of years after the Great Dying, Earth was a ghost world. Fossil records show ecosystems reduced to monotonous poverty, with only the hardiest species eking out an existence. This planet came closer to complete sterilization than at any other point in its history. Yet somehow, life persisted, and when it recovered, it rebuilt the world in a new image. The dinosaurs' lucky break, a mass extinction with a silver lining jump forward to 201 million years ago, and Earth had recovered enough to support diverse ecosystems again. The Triassic period featured a bizarre menagerie of creatures competing for dominance. Giant amphibians, some stretching over 12 feet long, ruled the swamps. Various reptile groups battled for territory, including archosaurs, ancestors of dinosaurs, crocodiles, and birds, and therapsids, those mammal ancestors. And then there were the dinosaurs, but they were nobody special yet. Just another group of reptiles trying to survive alongside much larger, more successful competitors. Then Pangaea began to break apart. As the supercontinent rifted, creating what would eventually become the Atlantic Ocean, massive volcanic eruptions erupted along the fracture lines. The Central Atlantic Magmatic Province poured greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, triggering rapid climate swings. Sound familiar? The pattern repeats: volcanic eruptions, greenhouse effect, ocean acidification, ecological collapse. About 70–75% of species vanished, including nearly all those giant amphibians that had dominated for millions of years. The phytosaurs, crocodile-like reptiles, went extinct. The armored etosaurs disappeared. Many of the dinosaurs' competitors simply ceased to exist. This created an enormous power vacuum, and dinosaurs rushed in to fill it. Over the next few million years, they diversified and grew, eventually becoming the most successful group of land animals Earth has ever seen. They would rule for 150 million years, a period of dominance that dwarfs all of human history by several orders of magnitude. But every empire falls. And the dinosaurs' end would be the most dramatic of all. The day the sky exploded, how an asteroid ended an era. 66 million years ago, Earth was at peak dinosaur. Tyrannosaurus rex stalked forests in North America. Long-necked sauropods grazed across multiple continents. Pterosaurs soared through the skies. The oceans teemed with massive marine reptiles. Flowering plants had recently evolved, covering the landscape in colors the dinosaurs' ancestors had never seen. It was, by any measure, a world of abundance and diversity. Then, on an ordinary morning 66 million years ago, the sky caught fire. A city-sized asteroid, roughly 6 miles in diameter, slammed into what is now Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula at over 40,000 miles per hour. The impact released energy equivalent to 10 billion Hiroshima bombs. In less than a second, it vaporized rock, water, and any living thing within hundreds of miles. But the immediate devastation was just the opening act. Shock waves circled the planet, triggering earthquakes and volcanic eruptions thousands of miles away. Mega tsunamis hundreds of feet tall swept across coastal regions. Superheated debris ejected from the impact rained down across the globe, igniting wildfires that consumed entire continents. Within hours, a dense cloud of pulverized rock and vaporized matter spread across the atmosphere, blocking out the sun. For months, possibly years, the world plunged into a dark, cold winter. Plants died without sunlight. Herbivores starved without plants. Carnivores starved without herbivores. The food chain collapsed from the bottom up. Sulfur and carbon dioxide from the impact acidified the oceans, killing marine life on a massive scale. Global temperatures plummeted initially, then swung wildly as greenhouse gases accumulated. 75% of all species went extinct, including virtually all non-avian dinosaurs. The giant marine reptiles vanished. The pterosaurs disappeared. An empire that had lasted 150 million years ended in less time than it takes you to watch this video, but tiny mammals survived. The small, furry creatures that hid in burrows, scurried through the night, and could survive on whatever scraps remained. Some small feathered dinosaurs also made it through, evolving into the birds we know today. And from those mammalian survivors, 66 million years of evolution would eventually produce creatures capable of understanding what had happened. The sixth extinction. Are we writing the final chapter? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Many scientists believe we're living through Earth's sixth mass extinction right now. And unlike every previous apocalypse, this one doesn't involve asteroids, volcanoes, or ice ages. This time, the cause is us. The evidence is sobering. Species are disappearing 100 to 1,000 times faster than the natural background extinction rate. Rainforests, repositories of biodiversity that took millions of years to develop, are vanishing at an acre per second. Coral reefs, which survived multiple mass extinctions, are bleaching and dying due to warming oceans. Large animals, elephants, rhinos, whales, sharks, are being driven toward extinction by hunting and habitat loss. Plastic pollution has created entire islands of trash in the ocean. Chemical runoff creates coastal dead zones reminiscent of the Devonian extinction. Climate change is accelerating faster than at almost any point in geological history, rivaling the speed of some extinction-level volcanic events. The difference? Previous mass extinctions took thousands or millions of years to unfold. We're accomplishing similar devastation in mere decades, a different kind of hope. But here's why our extinction is different from all the others. Dinosaurs couldn't deflect asteroids. Trilobites couldn't regulate ocean chemistry. Permian creatures couldn't stop Siberian volcanoes. But we can stop deforestation. We can reduce emissions. We can protect habitats. We can choose a different path. Earth has survived everything the universe has thrown at it for 4.5 billion years, and it will continue long after we're gone. The planet doesn't need saving. It will regenerate regardless, just as it has after every previous catastrophe. The question isn't whether Earth will survive. It's whether we will be part of its future, or just another fossil layer marking the brief existence of a species that destroyed itself. The choice is ours. The time is now. What do you think? Or can we write a different ending? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to share this video to spread awareness about our planet's incredible and fragile history.